aka Roz Myers, Mama Roz. And I do agriculture here in the community as other family members do in our family around the diaspora. What I do, or the name of my business, is Sankofa 2020 Agri-Hood, which means bring agriculture back to our neighborhoods. I practice Wakanda in plain sight, and what that means is you can grow vegetables in plain sight, and nobody will ever know. And it will be a beautiful landscape. And as we do that, we learn permaculture and restoration and the protection of the soil. We are all aware of climate change. But do we understand why we have climate change? We have climate change because we have not been good stewards, of the land, cutting and felling trees, not having best practices for regeneration of our soil and of our plants. And everything works in concert because roots of all plants or the foundation and that netting that holds the soil and the rocks that keeps the erosion, so when the rain comes, it's not all washed away. But back to me. What I like to bring is agriculture to our community through practicing Wakanda in plain sight, which is permaculture, basically, in your landscape. And I also do gardening on a postage stamp. Now, gardening on a postage stamp is small container gardening. People do not understand, we do not understand that we don't need all of this to simply feed ourselves. You don't need a whole plot of land. You don't need an entire backyard. What you need, and this is what we learned in Sunday school, and I'm not going to apologize for going to Sunday school and going to church, because what I learned was Matthew 17:20. Matthew 17:20 says, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. That resonated with me because I'm Libra. What does Libra mean? Libra is scales of justice. But more importantly, in terms of its sun sign, I am the air. And so if I am the air, I can go over any obstacle. I can go around any obstacle. And if you really upset me because I am that queen, I will do this to the mountain. And that mountain will disappear because I will blow every speck of dust away. If it's in my way of bringing agriculture and food and immunity building systems to my family, my people, my community. What was the problem in the pandemic? Why were so many melanated people hit? Why did so many of us die? And it was because of what my brother Markos said. The things, and it's all marketing. All of our children need to take marketing and advertising so that they can discern and make better decisions. Marketing says, put the Fritos, the chips, the sodas right here, eye level, and at the checkout. And the kids are there, mommy, can I have da-da-da-da-da? No. Those things that are good for you are up high, or down low, or straight to the back. So now my children know go straight to the back, to the refrigeration. And side note to kind of advertise myself, I'm doing the Blacks in Agriculture Historical Walk, and the black man that made it possible for us farmers to bring our crops to the grocery store, because understand, we left our living food in the South for the Great Migration because we didn't want to farm no more. We didn't want to be there no more, did we? We weren't trying to be with our grandma. We wanted to go up north where we could be beautiful with the Supremes and everybody else, come out of the fields So we left our living food in the South and came to the North for living wages, and that's when we began to die. They made it convenient for us to go to those factories, to make more money, to come into the middle class, to give our children those things that we didn't have so they didn't have to struggle. That was the circular thinking, and that was the fallacy. That's when we began to die. So, me, I started when I was 4, maybe before 4, but my memory is 4, working with my grandmother in the garden. And it was a matter of fact. We had to feed everybody. My grandmother had over 32 grandchildren. And that adjacent lot to the house is where she hid us from those who would hurt us. So my grandparents' property perimeter was fruit trees. And all in the middle we played, and just beyond the fruit trees was the garden. And let me tell you about those pesticides. You know what our pesticide was? Dishwater, Castile soap with a little bacon grease in it. That was the pesticide. We didn't have all of that stuff, and we were healthy. We could go to school. We weren't hungry.
Let me guess, you walked 10 miles in the snow to get to That's as healthy as you can do.
I walked 5 miles in the snow because I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I had to go to school every day. And at that point in time, and I'm short. And I'm still wearing my boots because this is how I had to walk to school in the snow because the buses didn't run in our community. We didn't have services. So, you know, we all go back to roots. Go back to your roots. So, and what I like to bring to the children here at Melanin Day School and anywhere, and I know I gotta get to Luther Burbank because my children graduated from Luther Burbank. What I do, and I play games with myself, they tell me I'm crazy, but I embrace it. I'm dyslexic, I embrace it. I don't see things the way other people see them. So as I walk around on my walk, I take a package of mustard seed and I just start. I say they'll grow. So when I take the children on a walk, I can point out those leafy greens. They don't know it. I told them the birds did it. I told them the squirrels did it. They can recognize plants. And within that scope, we're teaching. We're teaching identification of plants. We're teaching identification of plants that will help build their immune systems. We're teaching that it does not take 40 acres and a mule to feed yourself. One of the other things, and just give me a signal, one of the other things that I learned after we went to the faith of a mustard seed, because that was just a little plastic cup with a cotton ball in it. We moistened it, put some mustard seeds in it, and it grew. The only other thing I can say to you, I went to plant some black-eyed peas, and an elder black man walked up to me. I'm buying seedlings. He said, "What you doing?" I said, "I'm finna plant some black-eyed peas." He said, No. Go to the store, buy a pound bag of black-eyed peas, put 2 in a mound, eyes down, cover it up, water it. What I found was that those 2 gave me a 1-pound bag. If I plant the whole 1-pound bag, how many people can I feed? My name is Queen. Thank you so much. I have learned, of course, we introduce myself first. Yes. My name is Onivia, and I'm an educator. I currently work for our children as an instructional aide, and I'm also currently engaged in a teaching certificate program. So hopefully, this time next year, I'll be teaching, and I'll have my own classroom. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate it. I need that.
Hold on a minute. I got to get out of here. They're speaking. Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Get out.
I'm honored to be in the presence of from our elders, from our ancestors. And so I want to talk about that and what my role is as an educator. Because the environmental justice, any type of justice, the social justice that we are seeking, is really in our capacity and our willingness to impart the knowledge and the wisdom that we have as a people to our children. Our children are the wealth, and our ancestors understood that. One of the powerful things that I found out recently is that in Africa, when children are born, they wait until they have come forth to name them. And I thought there was something really, that gives me chills right now. Often we impart a lot on our children before they even get here. And then we have all this expectation and make all these demands on these lives, when really there's power in their life. And we are blessed with their presence. And so I have the honor of working for them. A lot of times people say, I work with children. No, I work for our children. I am there to protect and defend our children in these spaces. And I need to let y'all know, if you haven't been at one of these schools, they very much need for us to protect and defend them.
Yes, they do.
And I'm about it. I'm not worried about, I'm not moved by authority, because I know that my ancestors are protecting me. I know that their Orishas are protecting me. So you gotta go through them before you get to me.
Exactly.
And when it comes to our children, you're gonna have to go through me.
Exactly.
And then there's how I show up. So one of the things that I've realized in the work that I've been doing for our children is that to teach is to learn. I have learned from them. I have learned that we owe them. They don't owe us.
Exactly.
We owe them our very best. And are we giving that to them? What I have also come to understand is that we're suffering from something. And having access to the nutrients in the food is one thing. But the other thing is the poison that white supremacy has left in us. And it's the internalized anti-blackness that is really the virus that's killing us. It's the shame and the blame and the anger and the disappointment and the embarrassment that we feel when we look in the mirror and when we look at one another, where we're lashing out at one another and we're denigrating and disrespecting one another. So the internalized anti-blackness, to me, is this foul toxin that we're now charged to purge out of our system. And in us purging it out of our system, we show up as who we need to be for our children. And they need us. Right now, not when you get it together. Right now, with who you are right now. As a people, we always have these top 10 things that we're supposed to do. You need to stop eating pork, you need to stop cussing, you need to stop wearing, whatever. There's 50 things that we're supposed to do, and then we need to get right, and then when we get right, then we can do. No, you are right as you are right now. You are supposed to be here. The ancestors sacrificed in many instances. In their dying breath, they manifested us into existence. I strongly believe that. I have told people several times, I have told our children, we should be behind glass. For 500 years, they hunted us down. They tried to kill us. But black people in our culture is a commodity. They've commodified our culture in such a way that everybody wants to be us except they don't want to be us. And our children need to know that. And it is in the knowledge that there's power. So when I go into the space, and yes, I work in a public school. No, I'm not waiting for us to have our own schools or whatever. We built this place. Our ancestors built this place. It's ours. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything else. We don't need anything separate. This is ours.
Happy Black History Month.
Hello. We are the story. Tell your children. Act like you know. Don't let anybody tell you that we have to have something separate when our ancestors, like y'all have already taught us, right? You just got to be teaching us. The people who were enslaved, who were they before the Markos? And that's really what I'm interested in teaching our children and learning, because in order for me to teach, I have to learn. I can't teach and I kind of learn. So the knowledge has been imparted to me by our elders, by our ancestors, by our children. The times that I have been humbled by our children. We're supposed to be giving that to them. Because in giving that to them, we can do all of the things that we want to do, that we need to do. If we didn't have the knowledge from our ancestors about the fact that our ancestors were the ones who created the economy. They are the ones who knew how to plant the seeds that built what is now the United States of America. So when we say we are supposed to get our reparations, yeah, y'all owe us. We also need to teach our children that. And not only do white people owe us, but just about everybody owes us except for the indigenous people of this land. This land, it
Thank you.
is, right?
Thank you.
Because if you want to really look at our story, we're indigenous too, because we know that our ancestors were here a long time ago.
Exactly.
Before Markos, before the transatlantic slave trade.
Yes.
And I love our family. Non-black people of color, I love them. I recognize them for who they are. They're our family. But I also know that the internalized anti-blackness, that's what's killing us. That's what's creating the divisions. That's what's preventing us from really having access to everything that we know that we deserve. The good food, our culture, because the food is the culture.
Food is the culture.
And they've commodified our culture, right?
Yes.
They digging in the center of the mac and cheese at the cookout, and we're allowing for that.
Yes.
When we really should be gatekeeping. And as an educator, I'm gatekeeping. You're black, you're the descendants of these powerful people. You are a representation, you are a living, breathing representation of the greatness of our people. Period, point blank. Don't let anybody tell you anything different, including other black folks.
Well.
Who will tell you you're not this and that.
Yeah. Well.
Because in you showing up, that is a revolutionary act, because we are really not supposed to be here, because they've really been trying to kill us and are continuing to try to kill us off as a people.
Yeah.
Have employed our siblings, our brothers and sisters in the anti-blackness effort. In our culture being commodified, everybody can go to the store and get it off the shelf. And we're allowing them access to it. So, in closing, my role as an educator is to impart the knowledge that I'm getting right now and bring it back to our children. And what I'm really asking, not up here necessarily to focus on myself so much as to ask for you all individually, because there's quite a few people in this room. And it doesn't take a lot, it doesn't take a lot of people. Harriet Tubman was one woman. How many people did Harriet Tubman go get and bring them to freedom? I'm asking for you on behalf of the children that I work for to show up for them, to impart the wisdom and the knowledge that you have, and to grow that garden in them, because they really are our wealth. And when you do that, we'll be here 500 years from now, 500 generations from now. And so I'm asking that. Thank you.
How you feeling? Yes. Lively up yourselves. It's almost 12:25. We're supposed to be out of here at 12:45, so I'm gonna try to be as potent to the point as I can be.
We're gonna keep the time.
All right. So I want to invite us to return to a tradition that we have long forgotten, which is asking the elders before we speak for permission to speak. Yes, so I would like to ask for that permission. Thank you. I would also like to honor my mother who's in the room, because I would not be here sharing what my gifts and skills were if she did not labor in 16 hours to bring me to this world. So thank you, Mariama. I appreciate you. I just recently learned that all my life I've been saying my name incorrectly. I've been calling myself Mariana, and some people call me Mariana. My name is Mariana, and that's the way we roll it. So if you let me put some stank on it, my name is Sister Mariana. Okay? I am a social wellness practitioner, and this is something that I've come to after about 20 years of figuring myself out, healing myself, and being diligent with that work when it comes to mental health, what I call emotional hygiene, and specifically what my role is in leadership and community. It started off with me being a performing artist, and I thank my mother for putting me in every talent show in Sacramento, Rancho Arroyo, which y'all know about. Oh, okay.
I do.
Right? All right, so, but when I learned that I had the ability to garner attention, right, and get applauses, that was great, that felt good. But I started to look at my fellow artists in the community, realizing that we often create out of pain, right? And sometimes we'll romanticize that, right? I'm creating my art and transforming my pain into art. And I started realizing that I was surrounded by artistic geniuses, but I also noticed geniuses can suffer very deeply when they don't activate doing their healing. And so I started looking around at a lot of community leaders, a lot of community artists and activists, and I began to notice, including myself, like, wow, if we can create all these amazing movements for the community with our active pain or our secret pain, what can we create if we start taking more accountability to do the mental health work and the emotional hygiene work that's truly necessary for us to move forward as people of African descent in the future. And so I also have the honor of my mother exposing me to esoteric wisdom, my African roots and culture. I fell into the art of understanding the soil and the earth as well, like many of us returning back to some of our native roots. But I also understood that all of that exterior stuff ain't nothing if we're not working on the core. And if behind the scenes as artists and activists, as leaders, we are shining in light to the community front, but we're harboring some pain behind us. And so my life's work, beginning with myself, I created a workbook called Own Your SHIT. There are elders in the room, but I want you to know that that acronym stands for some healing in there, because we all have some healing, no matter how bright our light is, and we can shine even brighter and be more effective and impactful for our community members, but specifically first our family, our children, and then working from that order. And so what I did is create a mental health. I got some certifications. I realized that I did not need to go to a traditional school. I didn't need to go to an archaic system to get certifications in environments that never intended for me to be there to do the work that I needed to do.
Exactly.
And so what I said is I'm gonna do the work on myself first and make myself the case study. And so what that means is I had to go through about a year and a half, 2 years self-dedication commitment where I backed off from community leadership. I backed off from performing in arts to make myself that case study. And that meant that I needed to deal with addictions, some of them that are very trending and normalized in today. For me, it was being addicted to marijuana. And a lot of the times we say, because things come from the earth, that it's healthy, it's okay, but anything I've done out of moderation could become an addiction. So one of the things that I had to do was strip myself from the vice that I was using to hide some of that secret pain behind the stage or when I was in positions of leadership. The second thing I needed to do was work on my trauma healing as a result of generational trauma, as a result of my own family traumas. Once I was able to face those and deal with those in a clean head and a clean mind, I was able to move on to mending relationships with my family members. My mother had come from extreme situations of being abused. So as a result of being the child of her, we had some reconnecting and bonding and fixing and healing that we needed to do. I wanted to make sure that I got that down before I started performing and continuing forward for community. And I thank you, Mom, for being open for me to do that work with you. The next thing I had to do is work on my relationship with my daughter. who, as a result, again, because of generational trauma and family trauma, we had fallen out. And as that separation happened, we both went through our own mental health and emotional hygiene issues. I had to be diligent and do the work on myself so that I can then return and reconnect with my daughter. I firmly believe that as activists and leaders, if we are not doing the work to clean up our own house, even if it's difficult, it's going to be a lot more difficult to take on changing and healing the world. So once I was able to get into a position of feeling confident as a leader, not hiding it in secret because I had a toxic relationship at a point in time with my mother. I wanted to make sure to clean that up before she left this earth and before I left this earth. I wanted to make sure to clean up and do that in-house work with my own child. Once I got through that rites of passage, I allowed myself to get the certifications and some of the trainings that I needed to go deep into mental health and now what I call emotional hygiene. What that means is providing safe space opportunities for workshopping, for keynoting, for training for those of us who are leaders, artists, activists, and entrepreneurs in the community. Because oftentimes we have a lot of safety issues, and it's not always because of the white man in situations outside of our communities. We have issues that include domestic violence, that offshoot from substance abuse. We are dealing with molestation. We are dealing with a lot of issues within our own communities. And in my mind and in my work, I believe it's not enough to only recognize the root that has happened in the generational trauma and curses, but it's also us being accountable for people in positions of leadership and entrepreneurship to be clear and open about that. Now, I've also worked in community with anti-recidivism and all those kind of things with people coming back into community after spending time away. I understand that people do change, but if we check the Carfax on a vehicle, we definitely need to be checking the backgrounds of our leaders and activists. Because oftentimes the community is so eager and thirsty for what it is we have to offer. If we're not transparent, what can happen is in many movements that have happened. This is not the first time. The 60s we've had awakenings. The Renaissance we've had awakenings of Black power. But because of lack of accountability within our own circle, once we are wounded by those issues, our whole movements can begin to crumble. And so my effort and my joy and my work is making sure to step forward to number one, deal with and create safe spaces for leaders and activists and artists, for entrepreneurs, educators, and of course, children and family. The home, school, neighborhood, and workplace. My motto is, can't nobody check me if I check myself. So, as much as I do acknowledge the outside sources that have been hinged into making sure that we fall apart and disintegrate off the face of the earth, I also know that there's a level of accountability that is painful. As it was said before, sometimes we don't want to do the work. I remember when I was trying to grow that broccoli and them aphids come and I had to learn about all kinds of different ways to fight that fight. I did not want to fight that fight, but it was an infestation in my own garden. And if I want to feed the world and I want the world to flourish in health, I definitely believe in biomimicry. And biomimicry is the act of looking at nature as examples on how to deal with our mental, emotional, and social circles. So that's exactly what I do. My goal is to work with children, educators, families, leaders, to deal with the root rot of our mind, to deal with the root rot of our heart, and to deal with the root rot of our spirit. Once we can unearth those issues honestly and begin to heal intrinsically, internally, we can then be more effective for the community. So in terms of the services that I provide, again, their keynotes, their workshops, and their trainings for the home, school, neighborhood, and workplace, so that we can do our inner own your SHIT work, and we can turn that SHIT into good fertilizer and go and heal the world.
So, in the essence of time, we're gonna have a Q&A, but we're at that mark, the 12:45 mark. Where are we?
Yeah, we're about 12:32.
All right, and I really want to appreciate you all coming out. Sojourner African Heritage Museum, we're having listening sessions like these. This is maybe the third of many that we're having, and because we are a museum, but we also are an artist-run project, right? And so I'm the data collector. I'm doing the pop-up research station, and we're archiving our conversations. But these are important conversations to have in environmental justice under our Creative Core project that we've gotten funding from the California Arts Council and also the Office of Arts and Culture. But this is a dream and a project Shona's been working on and making sure that it's all a part of activism, and what we do is artists. When we go into placemaking, we want to make sure that we have placekeepers that keep the work that we bring to them, and instead of just, when you grow a garden, you see a lot of gardens, they dissipate because there's no placekeepers there. You know, so when we do murals, sometimes you go into communities and do these huge projects that we're doing, like the Foreign Road Community Beautification Project. But the community has to take care and be, you know, placekeepers once we've done the work. And so that's why we're having these listening sessions, because all of the artists that I work with that are here at the museum and here in the Sacramento community, and I'm from Chicago, and even that community, we're having these conversations about, you know, you talk about being gatekeepers. You know, we're having these conversations about the social justice, and art is social justice. And so, and I do it on a tactical level, you know, in the horizontal landscape, so we're doing it, you know, do it yourself from the ground up, because we're grassroots, you know, where we're coming from. And so I really appreciate you all coming and sharing and having these listening sessions, and we're going to be having many more hybrid type of conversations. So I'm going to turn it back over to you for Q&A.
So first of all, is there any questions from the audience to any of the speakers about anything that they spoke about, or anything that's burning on your mind that you want to ask anyone? Go ahead.
Urbanism Art. So my thoughts over the last 2 months or so is that I need to find a farm, so I can just go. I'm retired, so just go get dirty, help out, learn a little bit, take to my place, and develop something. So I want to get your information if it's okay.
And just to that, I mean, you know, that started in 2008 with, you know, like everybody was saying, with a few good seeds in the ground. So it's a 20-year process. So, you know, if I would have went and bought a farm 20 years ago, I would have failed miserably, because once again, the hardest part of dealing with nature is the lifestyle that you have to live in order to get what's there. And I think you were talking about relationships, everybody talked about relationships, and the earth will refine you into the type of person that can work with it, because you can't tell the earth what to do.
Well,
You cannot. You can try, but I've never seen anybody be successful with that. So there's a whole lifestyle that goes along with it. And so I'm glad you're on that journey.
Okay, one other question.
Sure.
Ask a question. So you walk the earth and bare feet, your family, a lot. And a lot of the conversations in the esoteric and the metaphysical community is they're talking about grounding. Could you speak on that a little bit?
Well, you know, without going into it, because we do have some time here, it's just basically, you know, we're not connected to the earth. The earth has frequencies. We have frequencies, but we're not connected to those frequencies. There's things that happen to us. I think, who was it that, I think when you were talking about I forgot who was talking about it, but when we disconnected from that, leaving the south, coming to the north,
Yes.
that's when we started to die.
That's when we
And
started
it's
to
really,
die.
and it's really an important thing to understand.
Yes.
But I'll save it there. Is there any other questions that anybody else has? Because I guess the last three questions that you were gonna ask as far as this goes, and maybe we can give everybody an opportunity to kind of talk to these real quick before we get ready to go, is one, like, how can the community help you to restore environmental justice within your local communities? Or the second question, how will we rebuild our communities to be stronger and recreate sustainable living places? And in what ways did you view yourself as an artist in our community's challenges in building a strong, sustainable, safe place? So, I don't know, I want to just turn it over to. Okay, no problem.
But you know, but just to say, when I was listening, because I shaped those questions,
Sure.
and it's part of the investigation.
Sure.
Everyone answered those questions.
Definitely.
You know, in their conversation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And Roz, you can take it from here, but I think that everyone really looked at these questions and they really answered them because they were woven in your presentation, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll just say as we're waiting for to pull it up, is that Queen pull it up, is that you know, all I can say is that going into the earth is almost like going back into the womb, and it changes you. and I'm a different person now than I was before. And so, you know, with me, I think, you know, it's just an example of what it can do, and that's why I say that every person, young person, should either keep some animals or keep a garden. Because you're not just gardening something external, you're actually doing something, you know, within. And I think that if we go within, if we don't go within, we, you know, have to go without. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it to our elder here and let her carry it out.
Well, what I would like to say with regard to those three questions, because I did labor over them to some degree, but what I kept coming back to is my roots. And in my foundational development, and when I was a young person, we walked with no shoes. We didn't have shoes. We struggled to get shoes. Why did we struggle to get shoes? Pinworms, diseases, all of that. So with that next generation, we was fashion fair, and we was all of this, and we made sure we had good shoes. One of my children now got about 120 pair of shoes. Shoes. But it was for health. But now, and with those children, the grounding. You got to play in dirt.
Yes.
I have grown women who are afraid of worms. We can't do that. So back to the roots. We have a code of ethics, and we have a strategic plan. That code of ethics is the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Our strategic plan is the 10-point plan of the Panther Party. Those same issues have not been resolved. We're still fighting those same issues. Why? Because our children have not had the benefit of marketing classes, understanding return on investment, and how. And see, we were taught don't steal. There is no reason to steal. There's no reason to be jealous. Why? Because you are a business person and you can present yourself and people will give you their money. And if it's so good, the product or the service that you're selling, they'll steal it from you because it's that good. So that gets me back to marketing, advertisement, and business. Our children need a marketing class so they can understand how it's designed to get their money out of their pocket. What's not good for you is put right there in your line of business. Everything that's good for you is an eye on the shelf, is down on the bottom, and it's in